Hello, I am Evangeline, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make candy, basically, and the 3 simple ways. You have singles, ladder stitch, and brick stitch. So I'm going to be taking you through those 3 methods today because a lot of people on my lives have been asking me to do like a little tutorial, and I feel like it'd be easier to do it in a video rather than a live. Anyway, without further ado, let's go. First things first, you're gonna want beads. Now, when it comes to beads, there are quite a lot of places that you can get beads from. You could get them from places like Amazon, AliExpress, that sort of stuff. TikTok shop does them as well. Personally though, I also prefer scrolling through Vinted and picking up pony beads that people are just getting rid of because they're having a craft clear out. That's one of the ways I do things, because then I tend to like bundle like loads of stuff that they've listed, and then you get a bundle discount, and I kind of prefer to do it that way personally. There's also like lots of little shops that also sell pony beads. I'll list them here for you. These places that I've bought beads from previously, so it's pretty easy to source beads. The next thing you're going to want is string. You're going to be wanting a nice elastic piece of string. There's multiple different types of string that you can use. There's like thicker, like cottony cord ones that you can use. I find those kind of immobile. Yeah, I find them, they don't stretch very well. They're kind of immobile. They're very, very difficult to work with. Like, they're nice for singles, but when you're doing like ladder stitch or brick stitch, it's just not as malleable. Then I also prefer to use like a thin elastic string, because sometimes some of them could be like really thick. I always tend to go on the thinner side because you can always just sort of like double up if you want extra thickness, but if you want to do like more complicated things like ladder stitch and brick stitch, they're not actually that complicated, but you know what I mean. Then you kind of want something nice and stretchy, nice and thin, that is easy to work with. And then personally, I also like to have a little needle. Camera, focus. You want a decent sized sewing needle. I find it easy to just thread the elastic through and then just use it that way. It's a lot easier than just trying to put the bead straight onto the string. At least it is in my own opinion. Right, and then obviously you'll be wanting a pair of scissors. Any scissors will do. As long as they can snip the thread, you're all good. And so, right. First things first, we're going to do a single. I'm just going to take you through a basic one. So we're just going to do a little single. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your string and you're going to want to measure it. So you're going to take it, make sure that you've got some dangling for slack, and then you're just going to want to wrap it around your wrist once, and then leave yourself plenty of slack on the other side to tie off. So that's basically what you're going to want. Bead wise, I tend to work out what bead pattern I want to start off with. I think this one's going to be like a Panic at the Disco themed one. So I'm going to pick out some bead colours that match what's going on in my head. And then I've also got letter beads, so I'll be picking those out too. So once you have decided roughly on your bead pattern, I personally prefer going for 3s and 2s in a bead pattern. You could do whatever you want though. Then basically you get started. So you're going to want to grab your needle, take that piece of thread that you measured, and you're going to want to thread it through. Now what I personally prefer doing is taking the end and wrapping it around your finger. Then that way no beads are sliding off the end of the string. And you're just going to pop them all on. then you're just gonna check and see if it fits your wrist. And yep, that fits my wrist. You want to take the needle off, and this is the first knot that I do. So you take the string, you cross over the thread, you cross it over so it's kind of like this, feed one under, and then you pull. Then I tend to do the same again. So cross it, feed one under, and through. And then to secure it, I also do this. I pull it, I find where that little knotty loop is. I pull it around my finger. I then feed my 2 fingers through, take that, push it through those 2 fingers. Hold on, my camera is not focusing. Just through those 2 fingers, clamp it. Then I use this hand to pull that loop down and these 2 strings through. Grab those strings and pull it across. And that's basically the beads, nice and secure now. They're stuck there. Then you just want to take your scissors and cut the excess off. And that's it, you've made a single. Ready to wear. Right, the next thing we're going to be working on is a ladder stitch bracelet. I prefer to use ladder stitch for things that are just colours, because I find that for using letter beads, it's better to use the brick stitch for those. But so for this one where it's just multiple colours or whatever, like these I've been using for like the pride flag stuff, if it's just colours, colour beads, I tend to use ladder stitch just for this. So yeah, I'm going to show you how to make something with ladder stitch. First of all, again, you are going to be wanting to measure your string out. Now, to make this easy, I'm probably just going to do 3 layers. But for ladder stitch, what I tend to do is start measuring and wrap it around once and then twice for 1 layer, so like 1 row of beads, because as you're weaving, you'll need extra thread to go through. So I tend to wrap it around twice for 1 row. So 1, 2, start again. Blah, blah. So yeah, that means, so wrapping it around twice, that's enough for 1 row. Another twice, that's 2 rows. Another 3 times, that's for 3 rows. And then you're going to want to leave plenty of slack. Right, next obviously you'll be wanting to select your bead colours. Then once you've done that, you can begin. Again, you take your needle, you thread it. Now for this, I like to pull it right through, and it makes your life so much easier if you do it that way. Now starting off this, it's going to be a lot like doing singles, because for the first row, your top row, you're going to want to basically just start off by doing the same as you did with singles. So you're just going to load up your needle, and just keep on threading it through, like so. Until your string is essentially full of enough beads to go around your wrist, which this is almost. I just need a couple more. Another thing that you're going to want is for when you're doing something like this, you want to be using multiples of 3 or 4 for ladder stitch. So I forgot to. I now need to count. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 25, 26, 27. So I've got 27 beads on there, so that is multiple of 3. I personally work in 3s rather than 4s. I just find it easier, but whatever's more comfortable for you. So we've got 27, and that'll fit my wrist. And now here we get to the tricky part. You're going to want to leave a lot of slack at this end. And you're going to bring forward your next bead colour, because we're about to do the next row. Right. For your next row, what you're going to want to do is you're going to keep this straight, or at least try to keep it straight. Then you're going to take 3 beads, pop them through. You're going to slowly want to pull that through, but gently does it. Once you get to that point where it's practically on the same thread, you're going to take 3 of the top row beads and push the needle through those top 3. And pull. So you get like a nice little loop like that. You can take your needle and you're going to pop it through your second row, first 3 beads, and pull. You're going to want to put your hand on those beads, and then you're going to want to pull it, but not too hard, because otherwise you're going to lose your first bloody 3. Just so that it's nicely tacked onto there. Once you've done that, grab your next 3, load them on, and pull through. So you've done that, you take the next 3 beads along the top, you're going to pop your needle through and pull. So that's all through. Then you're going to take those 3 beads that you just put on, put the needle through, and pull. Sorry, just got a random bead come in there. And you're just going to pull. Until it's nice and through. Now you're just going to keep on repeating this process until the entire row is full. Then once you've made these 2 rows, you're going to want to pull this quite tightly, just to tighten everything up. Don't do that though. You're going to want to pull both ends. Just to get that nice and tight. So that's your second row done. And then you're going to want to move on to your third row. And your third row is very much just exactly the same process as before. You're just going to keep on repeating this process until you're done. So you just get those 3. Put in your previous 3. You pull. You go back through. You take your 3. Hands are getting numb. Take your 3. Pull through. Go through 3. And you pull. Okay, now we've hit a troubleshoot point because I clearly did not measure enough string. So I'm going to teach you how to troubleshoot that. What you're going to want to do is you're going to take a little bit extra. Cut that up. Then you're going to take the end that's still in with the beads, you're going to crisscross them over, you're going to crisscross, make sure it's a nice little X, tuck one under, round, and you're going to make another crisscross, tuck one under and up. Get a nice little knot, and then just to secure, I'm going to do what I did previously. Just going to wrap it around my finger. You will have to make a few attempts at this because it is a little bit tricky. Loop it around. Oh. Sorry, sometimes these things are really, really tricky, and I just need to keep breathing, because otherwise I will freak out. Freaking out is a very special talent of mine. I will get there eventually. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Nearly there. And there we go. Just gotta pull that nice and tight and pull this end nice and tight too. Just make sure you get that nice little knot. Once you've done that, you take the excess, snip it off, discard, you take a new end, and you thread it through. Just going to pull that in through just to retighten that. And let's keep going. But yeah, sometimes you will run into issues, but it's literally as easy as that if you haven't cut enough string. I prefer not to do that, but sometimes needs must. There we go. So there we go. Once you've finished making all the rows that you want to make, like I said, for this one I'm just sticking with 3 rows. Once you've made those rows, what you're then going to want to do is pull yourself up so that you've got the 2 ends sort of together. Then you're going to want to take your needle and thread it through that previous end. This is how I like to keep everything nice and straight. And then you just keep on feeding that through. No weaving, no nothing. It just sort of makes sure that the shape doesn't warp quite as much. And you keep on going around this until you get back to essentially where you started. And now you have the privilege of being back where you began. Take this, you thread it under here and through here and pull. Then you thread it under there again, but then through the next row across and pull. Then you thread it underneath that row there and across and pull. Now you've nicely got that on this side. You're going to de-thread. You're going to grab it. You're going to pull nice and hard. Actually, wait, no, I de-threaded it way too early. Sorry, sometimes I make mistakes, okay? Going to thread your needle back again, because I did that way too early. What you want to do when you go through there, so what I tend to do is I like to go through here, so through 3, and see where this weaving point is here. I like to just loop through the string that's already there, just to anchor it a little bit. Just loop it through a couple of times, just to anchor it just a tad. Then I'll go back through those 3. Then I'll take my needle off. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pull on the original end, nice and tight. You're going to want to take your loop, you want to do the crisscross and pull. I think I've got quite a bit of slack here, so I'm actually just going to trim slack just a little bit to make things a little bit more manageable for myself. Then you're going to want to crisscross again, then pull, loop around your finger, put your 2 fingers in and pull. And that's it. That's how you do ladder stitch. Oh yeah, and obviously don't forget, trim off your excess. Bit more of that excess from earlier. Yeah, don't forget to trim off your excess. And that's how you do ladder stitch. Right then, third segment, brick stitch. I'm gonna make an Avril Lavigne one because I need to make more of these anyway, so just gonna make another one of these and I'm gonna show you how to do it. This one uses brick stitch. I tend to use brick stitch for things that have letters in them because I feel like it just holds these letters a lot nicer than if I was to do ladder stitch with this, because I have tried ladder stitch with like letter beads before and it's just not held very well. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys how to do brick stitch. Right, first we're going to take our string and measure. This pattern is a 4-row. So we're going to take that end and we're going to wrap it around our wrist 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember to leave plenty of slack. So we've got a lot of string to work with. Just going to thread the needle. Just make sure that you have a nice long tail so the stuff doesn't get tangled so easily. Leave that to one side. Sorry, getting my beads out. First thing we're going to do for this is I'm just going to wrap this tail around my finger to keep it nice and secure. Then we're going to take a bead, thread our needle through it. So it's like that. Then you're just going to have that bead flatten between your fingertips with this bit coming out here. You're going to get another bead on your needle. And you're going to thread that through. And what you're going to do is you're going to have it like that. What you're going to do is you're going to bend that over. Well, place that over. So you've got that nice thread at the top there. Pull it nice and tight. Then you're going to put it through your needle back through the first bead and up. Pull it so it's nice and tight. Then put your needle back through the second bead. And once you've done that, you're going to have 2 nice threads there and 1 thread at the bottom. There's a nice little link there. You're going to take the next bead, you're going to put it on your needle, you're going to thread it through. Then this way you're going to have this one go under. So you're just going to flatten that out between your fingers here. Then you're going to put your needle through your second bead and pull that through. Then you're going to come back and go through that third bead and pull it through again. So you see how you're making these nice little links at the top and the bottom. That's what you're going to keep on doing. And you're just going to keep on sliding the beads through and just keep on adding them like this, going through in like that up and down motion. And you just keep on getting longer and you're just going to keep on adding more beads until you're ready and you've finished your first row. So yeah, once you've gotten your row as long as you want it to, you will have a nice chain that looks like this. And here's the part where I'm going to show you how to start the next row. So you're going to want to lay your beads out like so. You're going to take your next bead and you're going to thread it through. Hang on, I'll see if I can put my zoom on for this bit. Is that clear enough? There we go. God, my hands look awful. Right, so you want to pull through. This part can be a bit fiddly, but you'll be okay. If beads like this, you pull through until you've got that one directly underneath this one. And before you do anything else, you want to put another bead on your needle and you'll want to thread that one down. So you've got these two like this. What you want to do next is then take your needle, go up through this bottom loop here and pull. And what you'll get then are these two beads. Pull that as tight as you can. What you want is then you'll have these two beads here and here. You take your needle, you put it back through the last bead that you just put on. So then the string will be nicely looped around the bottom loop there. You're going to want to pull that nice and tight. Looks a bit messy for now, but trust the process. Then you'll take your next bead, you'll thread this under bit here again. You'll want to pull, see that thread through, take your needle, you go back through the bead and down and keep on pulling it so you can get it nice and tight, and then it should start looking like this. Your next row will stick out a little bit on the end, but that is absolutely fine. It will all tie in together beautifully at the end. And then you're going to keep on taking your beads. You're going to keep on wanting to take your beads and keep on threading them through. Remember during this process to keep on pulling your string to keep it nice and tight. And you're just going to keep on with that process until you've gone all the way along. However, if you're like me and you're putting in the letter beads, there's going to be a point where you're going to start popping those in. And that'll be the bit that I am going to show you now. Well, kind of. Because first of all, you're going to figure out where you want your letters to fall. Now this was a prototype that I've just kept myself, but what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to have one black bead there, the letter beads are going to come through here, then we're going to have a black bead there. That's the current plan. So I'm just going to thread another black bead in. So we have that nice block so far. And next I'm going to get my letter beads. Alright, now working out where these letter beads can go can be quite tricky. Some beads you will get that are exactly the same as regular pony beads. However, these ones that I've got are slightly smaller. So I've got 5 beads here, so I know that the gap that I need will be 4 beads in, well, 4 beads in space. That's why I've designed the pattern. That's why I'm having the pattern be 1 black bead there. No bother with these 4. Then start with the black beads again there. So now you're just going to want to thread that through. You're going to want to keep that nicely positioned. Oops, sorry, decentered that there. Going to want to keep that nicely positioned there. Now this may not look like it's going to hold properly, but trust the process, we'll come back to it, the rest of it at the end. So then I'm going to put on that black bead. And you're always going to keep, and since we are on 1 link over on this row, you're going to want to keep that 1 link over. So I'm going to pop this one through here. And then you're going to pop that needle back through that bead and down. And again, you're going to want to keep on pulling that tight. You're going to want to keep on pulling that needle tight. Now we're just going to keep on going until we hit the end. And that's the second row done. Right, so we're going to come on to the 3rd row now, and it's basically going to be repeating the same process as we did with this side. So you'll take a bead, through your needle, pull through until it's directly under the last one from the previous row. take your next bead, thread that through, and you're going to thread that through that first link. And then down through that bead. And then we're going to keep on going with that process until I want to add the next lot of letter beads. Okay, so we've now hit the point where I want to add the next lot of beads in, because the next word is 2 letters longer than this one. So I'm just going to subtract 1 bead on each side. So we're just going to have the pink here. Oh, also, yeah, another thing, remember, since I started over here, we're 1 link over on that one. But that is also okay. On each row, you're always 1 link shifted from the previous row. Either way you go, but that is okay. It will work out fine in the end. It will look cool once all said and done. So next, I'm going to want to get the beads ready for the next word. Okay, so I've got those letter beads ready. And we're going to start popping them on the needle. Thread that through. So there we go. Nicely placed along there. And we've skipped out the black completely now. So just going to take a couple of pink beads. And always remember that on this row we are 1 link over. So you want to put this on. And then go under this link here where it's black and pink. Down through. Pull that nice and tight. Through here. Down there. And pull. Now again, I know it looks a bit messy, but we'll fix that in a bit. I will show you how later. And we're going to add the last 2 black beads on here now. And that's the 3rd row done. And now I'm quickly just going to go through the last row, going through the same process as we have been with all of the previous rows. Okay, now we've gotten to the point where in the previous row we've had the lovely little letter beads. And what we're going to do is to keep this all nice and tied together, you're going to want to put your next bead through. Then you're going to want to find that lovely little string just there from where the letter beads begin. make sure that your bead's threaded on. And you're going to go under that little thread there, just the same as you would with these. You're going to want, just same as you would with these, you're going to want to do the same with this. And down the same way that you do with the others, and that helps to keep it all nicely tied together. And like I said, I will show you how to finish it, keeping it all tied together later on once we've finished doing this row. So the next one that you can do is you're going to carry on the same way as you did with your top row, because there's nothing for this really to hook onto, so you're just going to keep going on with that singular little brick row like you do with the top. So you're just mirroring that down here. And just make sure that you keep on pulling that string nice and tight, because you don't want it being too loose. It ruins the shape if it's too loose. So you're going to want to just keep on doing like you did with the first row, and just pin those beads through your fingers until it becomes time to tie it back in to the other side again. Okay, now just reminding you guys, we are always one link over from the previous row, as the starting end will stick out more than the previous end. So now we're gonna take that pink bead and, as you noticed, it'll be coming, this string is come up here, which we don't want. So what you're gonna do, because for the next part we want that bead to come up, which obviously it's not going to do with the way round that the string is now. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that upright facing string, you're going to want to thread it through that top a couple of times so you get it nice and secure. And remember, keep pulling your string tight. I cannot stress this enough. Pulling it tight is like the most important thing. So then you can go down that bead without undoing what you've already done, because it's nicely anchored in the top. So see, I can pull the string back down again and it's not unraveling anything. So now that you've secured that, take your pink bead, you go through the top, you find where your lettering has started with that nice little string there. You're gonna pop your needle up through there. And then you're gonna come down. Oop. Sorry, camera accident. And then you're gonna come back down. So you got that nice and secure there. Again, it doesn't look very pretty right now, but trust that process. Next pink bead. Up. And down. And you're going to want to keep on going as you have before until you reach the end. And there we go. Here we have the whole string completed. Now to tie it off. So you know how previously I said you've got sort of an in-out on either end? Here is how that's going to play out beautifully here, because they're going to interlink. So you're going to keep pulling that string tight, again stressing to you that you need to pull that string tightly. You're going to weave through the end, the other end, and through. And you're going to go back through that bottom bead there and pull that one through nice and tight. And you're going to want to go through there, but then you're also going to want to go through the next bead along. Pull that nice and tight and go through the bead on the other end. And you want to go through that black bead again. Then you want to go through the next black bead at the end, and then back through down through the pink bead at the other end, and through that black bead again, then up through that top black bead there, and now this is the point where I just take the needle here, and then I'm going to be popping it onto the other tail that we have, because as you can see the string is pointing downwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then take it and put it through this end one here and put it up like that. I'm going to take that back off and put the needle back on the other thread, to which we're going to go through that pink bead there and back up through the black bead. So now everything's nicely woven and you've got both strings on the same side. So you're going to want to do that crisscross again and pull, and you're going to want to do that crisscross again and pull. Now, as you can see, the lettering beads and everything all looks a bit wobbly, and then also I've missed out a string there, which isn't too much of a problem because we've got all of this lovely slack here. And I'm going to show you how we're going to nicely weave all of that together so it all looks nice and straight like the other ones that I have made. So you're going to take that, you're going to go back down. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to keep on weaving your beads here through until the string doesn't go through like that, but up here. So I'm just going to figure that out, because if I go down that bead, it's going to come out that way, then up, then down, then up. So I know that going through this black bead is the right next move. So I'm going to do down and up and down, and then up. Once I've done that, I know that I can find the hole at the end for these little letter beads, poke the needle through, and keep on poking that needle through all of these letter beads. Then once I've got that, I'm just going to pull, and as you can see, we've now got a string on either end of that bead, just to pull those letters nice and tightly to the center. Then you're going to want to make sure you can do the same that side. So since the original string is going through the bead like that, we're going to go this way, and you're going to pull that nice and tightly as well, just to make sure that those letter beads are centered. Then you're going to want to anchor that by going through the other beads as well. Then once you've done a couple to anchor that, make sure that those letter beads are nice and tight, so just keep pulling. Don't pull too hard though, you don't want it to snap. Then we're going to come and do the same on the bottom row. So what you're going to want to figure out is, look at that bottom row of letter beads. The string is coming through the bottom that way there. So we're going to want the string to come through that way. So to do that, I'm just going to go through that bead like that, and through that bead like that to the upward position. Then we're going to do what we did with the previous row. Stick your needle in all those letter beads, one by one. Twirl nicely through, and then you could just pull. So you can see that letter bead is nice settled there, and this E at this end is going through the pink bead that way, so we're going to go through this pink bead that way, so it pulls it that way. So then now you've got the beads nicely set. Now on an oversight on my part, I didn't thread over here properly. That is the issue when I am talking while crafting something. I suck at it. So we're just going to quickly fix that. So I'm going to go down through there, up, lost my needle, right, up, down, up, down, up, I'm going to go down on that one, the loose one, then I'm going to go up on that pink one, then I'm going to go down to pull that back together again. I'm going to go up again, pull it nice and tight, and down on the pink one. Now I've run out of thread, but that's okay, because I could take this taut, not taut, tail, then feed that through down here so it can meet this thread here. So I'm going to thread it through the other end there. I'm going to feed it through too much there. Just going to go down and through, down and through. Ooh, didn't want me to go up the hole. So I'm just going to come down. And down. So there we go. Now both strings are on the same side. You're going to want to do your little X again. And pull. Then pull. And your finger. Put your two fingers through. Squeeze that tail end through there. And boom. Take your scissors. Cut off your excess. And that's it. You've got a little cuff with some nice little letter beads on there as well. I've made this one way too small, I think, because I was supposed to be doing a 5-inch cuff with this one, but I don't think this is 5 inches. I will have to measure it. Okay, so that is it. That is like my basic tutorial on how to make candy bracelets. These are kind of like the more basic things. Obviously there's like other stuff you could do, like stars and rotator cuffs and all that crazy stuff, but for now I'm just going to teach you the very basics. But yeah, so singles, ladder, and brick. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was informative. Fingers crossed you actually learnt something and I was somewhat decent in actually explaining how to do these things. I'm not very good at this normally. I'm not very good at talking and doing things at the same time. So I hope this video worked out okay. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want more videos like this, please let me know in the comment section down below. If this has been helpful, please like, and if you like watching me ramble and do random things, hit the subscribe, because I'm constantly making random videos about random nonsense. I do it for the plot at this point. Anyway, love you all. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Cheerio, guys, and peace.